And we're recording Michigan Derby Podcast, episode number 7, sponsored by Blade Steel Supply. I say it once during the episode. Guest tonight is a driver who's been very prominent up here in the Michigan Derby scene for a long time. He's been part of some pretty epic battles. I always enjoy watching him run every time. Starting to see some success on the big show level. CJ Milton, how you doing tonight?
Very good. How about yourself?
Hey, listen, man. I'm going to tell the audience real quick. I did try to get a hold of CJ on Wednesday, and he was not in favor of doing the podcast on Wednesday because he still had no voice from Sunday after the Spring X win.
Yeah, we after the win Sunday, we stayed at the fairgrounds, and I think we over celebrated a little bit too much into the Monday morning.
Hey, can you over celebrate a win at Spring X?
No, I don't think it's possible. We even got a teammate to have a few drinks with us, and they said some of his buddies said he hasn't drank in 18 years.
Well, did this teammate happen to be Trevor?
Yes, it was Trevor.
It was, okay, just so the audience knows, that may be in another podcast getting uploaded pretty closely to this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So, CJ Milton, man, you guys, Team Mid-Thumb, you, Trevor Daly, Darren Hill, and Jeff Miller, can you take us through the build on your car and how you guys got together and got her done? I mean, can you, from point A to finish, what can you tell us?
I guess it kind of started with Trevor. Probably about 3-4 years ago. He was on his way home from Spring X, watched it. I think I got a phone call, and he says, next year we're doing Spring X. He says, you in? I says, yep. He says, all right, we got to find 2 more teammates. And so growing up around here, I knew Darren forever, and he was game to join us. And at the time, the first year we did it, Trevor Harm actually raced with us, and he got out of it, and then Jeff Miller jumped in with him, and he's been with us for we were planning on last year, and then everything got canceled, so then we ran this year.
I got you. So, what kind of car did you have down there?
9802 Crown Vic. Came from Florida.
How did the build go? Did it get kind of hectic at the end, or did you have her done in plenty of time, or how did it go?
No, I usually get started pretty early on my cars. Usually, being a teacher, I got a 2-week break between Christmas and New Year, so I usually try to get a good start on them then. And I was done with plenty of time ahead. But it was a heavy build. There was a lot of welding, a lot of different fabricating of stuff with ball joints and spindles, and stuff like that where, we don't do at the county level.
So let me ask you this. As a builder, personally, if I have a car done early, I'm just kind of sitting there looking at it thinking, man, if I could have only gotten another, half-inch bumper height, or, man, do I really want to run those tires? I mean, did you kind of have a moment like that where you're sitting there just kind of looking at it and thinking, man, I could have done this or could have done that?
Oh, yeah. I bet you, honestly, I was done early, but I still putzed with it probably up till the day I loaded it. I'm trying to, I could probably get that back end another inch lower, and be right at the minimum I can have it, or, was worried about having the front end not high enough because I knew everyone would have the front end sky high with that kind of build.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, my cars are always done, the welds are still hot when I get to the show, and that's just always how it lines up. So I don't really have that kind of time to look at it. But when you got a car done in plenty of time like that, you kind of almost second guess yourself a little. Well, I don't know. I mean, do you kind of second guess yourself a little bit and say, man, if I could have turned this door plate just a little bit more, or if I could have positioned it a little bit more this way or something? I mean, does that kind of mess with your head a little bit?
No, I'm not that kind of stuff. I'm usually pretty good. It's more just like the little odds and ends. I double check everything over and over. And I believe actually I've had that conversation with your brother at a few races before, sitting there shooting the BS. And I said, "Where's your brother at?" He said, "He's still working on his car. It still ain't done." So.
Hey, I've told people this. I have just absolutely terrible luck. I've personally been trying to run on a team for like a few years now, and something always happens. I mean, I can hardly get 1 car to a show, let alone 4.
Yeah.
And let alone 4 cars at the caliber that you guys build them at. I mean, how do you guys get together and get these cars built?
Most of it, like, for Darren and Trevor, or not, so I said Darren and Jeff live pretty close to me, so we're always bouncing ideas. We're stopping at each other's houses and looking at things, and all summer, I see Trevor throughout the whole summer because we race a lot of figure eights together, and he actually camps not far from where we camp in Gladwin. He's got a place there, so we always stop by and shoot the BS. So we just communicate and bounce a lot of ideas off each other, but for the most part, we kind of build separately, and just send each other pictures and whatnot.
I got you. Guys just bounce ideas back and forth, but I mean, I believe, well, I'm not going to give away anything on him, but so you guys don't build your cars at the same shop or anything like that? You guys all pretty much build at your own place?
Yeah. For me, like Jeff Miller, he's probably only like 2 miles, if that, from me, and then Darren's maybe another 10 miles north of us. So, we got our own shops.
I got you. So, got done in plenty of time. You're heading down there. I mean, how'd the trip go? Did you guys have anything off the wall happen or anything? Was it pretty standard procedure?
Yeah, it was pretty standard. We had, we got that big 40-foot gooseneck. We had 2 cars on there, 2 golf carts, and I think between myself and my parents' campers, and we probably had another 4 or 5, friends that came down there with us to, for their weekend to party and race.
Gotcha. And I can't fault anybody for going down there just to party either. I mean, yeah, you're at a derby, but the party is always a fun part too.
That is for sure.
As long as you can talk at some point the next week.
Yeah, exactly.
That was very comical when you said that. I just about doubled over laughing. I was like, okay, hey, listen, that was a good party, man. You can't party too hard after that. But so you guys got down there okay. Everything went good. And then, I mean, what can you tell me about you guys? What was your approach on going out there 4-on-4 and then going out there for the feature?
4-on-4, we it kind of, our heat draw was kind of, it was good for us and bad because it was a group of younger guys that are from down our area that are just getting into the sport. They didn't have a lot of seat time, so we definitely had them on experience. But a lot of the guys actually I helped out, gave them a bunch of pointers, and the one kid was actually driving one of my old cars that I raced at Mayhem last year.
Gotcha.
So it was we were just trying to get them started in the sport, and then we ended up drawing them in the heat, so that kind of stunk.
Oh, I got you. Was that team? Which team was that?
That was Crushers.
Team Crushers. Okay, yeah, I did talk to Kyle Landenberg a little bit. He's been around a little bit. I'm not as familiar with the other drivers on his team, but I did know him. We did a little bit of business down there, and I know that he was at a couple shows that Jack put on a few years ago. But I know that he has been around a little bit. I wasn't really sure how he was on the track.
Yeah, out of that group, he has. But like Mitchell Pratt and Ricky Hillgrist, they've been in the circuit a while, but mostly running off front wheel drive stuff.
Okay.
So they're just getting their feet wet in the rear wheel drive, and then the other one was Hunter Thorner, who is his dad. His uncle grew up been racing forever, but he's just starting to drive. He's actually, I don't think he's not even 20 yet, if I remember right. He's a real young kid.
Yeah, so they were a pretty young team then.
Yep, exactly.
I got you. So moving on to the feature, I mean, I've given nothing away politically wise, but I mean, you guys, obviously had a chat before and kind of had a method of going out there and taking care of business, or were you guys just going to kind of see what happens?
No, we had a little politicking because there was a group, another Michigan team in the feature that that lived close by. We raced with all summer. So with Robin Equinet and Kretterman and Chad and Chad and Cody Jones. So we kind of had a little working with them, and we kind of were trying to play it out to see the pace, the way the feature, the pace went, and I feel like as soon as that green dropped, that plan went out the window, and it was kind of like it was just hard driving from green to the drop the checkered.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna point out that you're more of a county fair driver than you are at big shows, because you don't see you're not gonna see CJ at a lot of big shows. I mean, you've only ran not even a handful in your day, haven't you?
No, not many, and most of it's been Spring X, and I don't know. I guess unless you run all the big shows and you kind of your name's out there all the time, you know, the big name guys at the big shows, they kind of got their own little built-in pecking order, and you're kind of the odd man out in that. So that's why I kind of like, you know, Spring X is, even though it's a, you know, a bigger race, you go down there 3 or 4 and you can just do your thing. And you know, when we had that other team work with us, so we kind of had 8 of us helping each other out until the end.
Well, you're going to have that at any team show. You're going to have politics, and you're going to have this team with that team, and you know, you're going to get 9, 12, 10 cars together, and everybody's going to be working together. That's just how derbies go. It is what it is.
Exactly. Yep.
So, you know, I don't feel that that's really. I mean, yeah, it's an upper hand, but I don't really feel that that's necessarily dirty, because you know darn well that other teams are out there working together as well.
Oh yeah, it worked out that way. There was, you know, the other couple other teams that were working together too, so it was equal at the end.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's just derbying for you.
Exactly.
I just want to point out real quick that mostly, you know, most of the time you're a county fair driver, but for you to basically step up from the county fair level to the big show level, and I'll tell you what, I mean, it was fast paced, man. It was a half-hour feature, and there was 16 cars out there.
Yeah, I think I think there was
Or 20.
There was 20.
20
out there. So yeah, it was and it was a really fast paced feature compared to a county fair.
How do you adapt from the county fair pace to the big show pace like that?
Definitely, you know, you're more I guess you want to say you're moving a lot more. You're not, you know, back and forth trying to use the back of the car. You're pretty much driving most of the front end the whole time. Because if you're sitting still, someone else is putting a shot on you.
Absolutely. Now, did you kind of have a little bit of trouble with that at first, or did you pretty much, okay, you know, well, I'm going to try to use the back, well, that's not really working, so I'm just going to whip it around?
Yeah, you know, at first, it's just more of a mindset, because, you know, running a lot of figure eight, you're constantly moving and, you know, wheeling the car back and forth, so it kind of I think it helps a little bit for a team show like that at a fast pace.
Wow. So you're relating a Spring X action wise to a figure eight.
Yeah, because you're on the go the whole time, and your head's constantly on a swivel.
That is fast paced. I mean, a figure eight, you're racing. It's a race.
Oh yeah.
You're going as fast as you can the whole race, and you're telling me that is what it's like being on the track at Spring X.
Yeah, I mean, I guess not that fast, I should say, but you know, you're moving. You're not you can't sit still and, you know, put in neutral, rev a few times, look around, because if you do, that's when someone's ripping your front tire off.
Right. I mean, but it's comparable.
Oh yeah, it's definitely you know, more looking out the windshield than the back, that's for sure.
Yeah, that is just insane. I don't think I've ever been in a derby that fast paced. And you guys went out there and took care of business. I mean, it's not like you guys sandbagged, and you didn't. I mean, you guys were just. I mean, Darren Hill came in and eliminated Jeff Heinen's front wheel. I don't know how that. I mean, that's what happened. I mean, he came in. You guys were just blasting people, and it seemed like you guys were 2 steps ahead of the action.
Yeah, we knew kind of if we wanted to have a chance, we had to get that big caddy out before it started doing real damage to us.
Hey, I mean, a Heinen caddy. If you've ever been to a derby, you know that you need to either do something with that car or it's going to win.
Exactly.
Same thing with Dave Meyer. I mean, he took some pretty good shots out there. And the thing is about Dave is I didn't even honestly see him on the track afterwards. I mean, Dave, as much as he's won, he just kind of, okay, well, that was it, and then loads it up and goes home.
Yeah, I mean, heck, we busted all 4 tires were flat on that wagon, and he was still going around. I mean, he is a very, very good competitor and very hard to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. I know personally that he is responsible for at least half a dozen old iron of mine that wound up being junk. And for every single one of them, he has a trophy sitting at home in a check, because I have full-on junked cars on him, and he still wins.
Oh, yeah. He is definitely hard to beat.
Yeah, he's up there with anybody in the country. Him, Trevor Petke, Bill Miller, Jeff Heinen. They were out there. The Schaffners were out there. You guys, I mean, it was a heck of a win, man, and congratulations. And I speak for everybody when I say, I mean, it was a good win for everybody. The entire state's behind you, and we're all happy.
Good. That makes me feel good.
We're all celebrating up here. It's like, if you're a Michigan State fan, that's like watching Michigan State win a national title.
Exactly.
It's just good for everybody. This is not a current events podcast, even though I caught you right after a big win at Spring X. Interviewing CJ Milton in the Michigan Derby podcast is inevitable. I just happened to catch him after a big win at Spring X. But the format of the podcast is we want to go back and get the old time stories out of the drivers and how they got into the sport and how they developed to where they're at today. So CJ Milton coming away with the win at Spring X. Let's go back to how you got here. So you're a young kid growing up. Your dad derbied for a long time.
Oh yeah, ever since I was born, we were you're always around the derbies and at all the county fairs.
So you're coming up, you're watching your dad derby. What's that like, watching your dad run all those shows? And he was pretty successful.
Yeah, it was. He was he was really successful back growing up. So it's kind of he wanted to follow in his footsteps and try to go out there and be right there next to him.
So a little tidbit. Another thing about Spring X, Butch came in. Butch is your dad. He came in with the cars, and he was in the truck hauling the cars. And your guys' gooseneck had your Spring X car on it, and it had another car on it with the same color. Looked like a bone stock or a motor swap, whatever the other class is called. I think it's motor swap. And I asked CJ. I says, "Are you running two cars?" And you said, "Yeah, I'm running two cars." Okay, whatever. So me and Dad walked away at that point, and I heard a little bit later that you guys had actually built that car for Butch and did not tell him that until you guys got to the show.
Oh yeah, that we go into the bigger races, and every year it's like I wish I'd have did these back when I was younger, and this was his 50th year racing, so we kind of got with some one of his old neighbors that he raced with growing up, Jeff Lemaire's, and they got a car together, and I put that one together for my dad, and thanks Ron Deveray let us use the motor and trans and rear end and a lot of parts, and my cousin Terry Constantine gave us a bunch of parts and was able to put that car together for him.
And so what was it? What was the look on his face? What was it like when you guys told him, "Hey, you're going to run this car"?
It was more. He'll probably kick my butt for saying this, but I got a tear out of him, so he was really excited.
Hey, listen, I don't think he's going to kick your butt.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what he's going to do. Honestly, I got to get him on here to get him talking as well. But Butch is a good guy. He's a fierce competitor. He really is. And I'll tell you this: your guys' cheering section, the Eye in the Sky cheering section, is just insane. When Butch rolled out on the track in that car, I thought I was at a varsity basketball game. Your guys' cheering section had almost half the grandstands on their feet cheering when Butch rolled out on the track in that car.
Yeah, he was surprised, and everyone knew about him driving that car, but him. It was kind of comical. Everything. A couple of people didn't, forgot about it and slipped a little bit, and he never caught on, so it worked out pretty good.
Well, you guys had Butch hasn't derbied in how many years?
Probably at least close to 15 now.
Okay, so Butch hasn't derbied in 15 years. He's in his first derby car in quite some time. And you guys came away with the Spring X win. I mean, does it get any better than that?
No, and they were close. They had a good shot at making the feature, and then ended up blowing the head gaskets in that motor, and that's what stopped them from making the feature.
He was right there too. I mean, it was getting right down there.
Yeah, within after he went out, it was within minutes. Everyone else was kind of out, and they were real close.
So we'll flip flop this here in a minute. But did you give your dad a pep talk on, "Hey man, this is faster paced. This isn't like back home"?
Yeah, I told him, I said you gotta have the head on a swivel and watch your teammates, and with that class there, it's 4 2-man teams, so always 2 teams work together. So
yeah.
They got pretty lucky, and they drew my little cousin Ted Delia's heat and Randy, so they kind of had a little bit of help in they knew another team they were going to be working with.
Hey, I actually asked Randy how to say his last name, and I hope he hears this. He said it's Ida Polo.
Yeah, we just call him the Legend.
The Legend, half pint. He's a good guy. But I corrected him, and I told him it's Iadopolo. And he said, okay, that's what it is then. Randy's a good guy. He's a good time. He's entertaining guy.
For sure.
Yeah, and then watching Butch run, I mean, nobody has seen that in 15 years or so, and it was quite a good time. And then you guys go out there and win. I mean, I got to tell you, you can have a lot of fun derbying, but I don't think it gets any better than that. I guess Butch could have won his class as well, but listen, man.
Yeah, it's about the only thing that would have made it better.
Hey, you can only ask for so much, especially it shows that level.
Exactly.
So let's take her back. Let's go back. You're a little kid watching your dad race, and you're coming up through. So how did you go from you're admiring your dad and everybody else? Okay, so now you're in a car. How did you get to that point? What happened to where you're going to run your first car?
First car, we showed up, with the Winter Derby up at Hard Hat Bar, and I was supposed to be going up there. A buddy of my dad lived up there by the bar. We were going to go help him and get to his garage, and the car's painted with my name on it, and so like, kind of what the heck? So it ended up being they kind of surprised me, and at the time I was 14, I think. Yeah, 14, and the car's built with my name on it, and so we go the next day and race, and it was kind of cool because back then at the Hard Hat Bar you could have a passenger. So my dad got to ride with me the first in the heat, and then a buddy of mine ran in the consi with me.
See, that's so awesome that you guys had just kind of done that only backwards, So did you? First of all, what kind of car was it?
75 Chevy two-door Impala.
Sedan. Yep. So your dad rode with you in your first derby.
Yep, he sure did.
So did he give you a pep talk? Did he say, "Hey, do this, do that," or did he just kind of, all right, just do what you got to do?
Yeah, I mean, he kind of just let me do my thing, but it was pointing which way I should be going and whatnot, and so it was short. It was very short. I didn't last very long. My first race, maybe about 2 or 3 minutes in the heat, and I ended up getting pushed up in a snowbank, and the consolation wasn't much different.
Yeah, I mean that was a winter show though, so it's kind of hard to move anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you remember who won that show?
Back that year, I actually don't. I do not.
Yeah, no idea. I mean, hey, listen, it's been a while. You're not going to remember all that, but I always just ask because maybe it was somebody that's still racing today, like Darren Hill, Ron Hodges. Who knows?
Yeah, a lot of those guys, back then weren't. Very seldom you see Ron Hodges bring a car out in the winter. There wasn't much of the winter derbier.
Hey, I'm not a winter derbier either, to be honest with you. If there's a derby in the winter around here, I'm looking at the weather and be like, all right, it's 30 and snowing, I'm not going.
Yeah, there you go.
Especially up north, you're definitely going to have that.
Yeah.
So your dad rode with you your first derby, and you're kind of going along. How many shows are you running a year at this time?
Until I was about 18, I was, maybe one a year just because of high school and sports and whatnot. But then after we graduated, we started running a lot more. Back then that was, early 2000s, kind of the old iron was pretty plentiful still around here. You could get it, pretty dirt cheap and race. So we ran probably 3 or 4 a year, and then we started doing figure eights, and then we started getting a little heavier into figure eights. So, by early mid 2000s, we were running probably 10 to 15 figure eights in a year, and on top of 3 or 4 demos a year.
What were your demos that you ran at the time? Like, where did you run at?
We always seem to run. We would run, 4th of July up there in Harrison. That was a USA show. We always really enjoyed going to watch or race, I should say. And then we'd always run there. Got my butt whooped a lot of years by old Mr. Ted Cooper at that race.
Okay.
and then we always run Armada and the Richmond good old days, and Emily City usually are local ones around here.
Gotcha. Emily City and Armada. Those are still just booming fairs down there.
Oh yeah.
They're one of the biggest shows. I think Monroe might be a little bit bigger, but definitely Armada. If Monroe got canceled, Armada is definitely the biggest derby in the state right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long until you got your first win?
First win was, I think, like 05 up in Caseville. It was the Winter Derby. There was another Winter Derby up there, and I was driving. I had a 72 Oldsmobile 98.
A 72 98.
Yep, yeah. And not even one of the better ones. Those old C channel half frame in the back, and I remember the car being super clean, but had the vinyl roof. So we peeled the roof off. It looked like Swiss cheese. You could see the light coming through the roof.
And at the time, there was no patchwork. That was just how you ran them.
Exactly. Yep. No, welded some bars. There was a no post, so welded some bars from the where the B pillar would be to the roof. Kind of put some big plates to hold it together.
Michigan Rust, baby.
Oh yeah.
So you just got your first win. What's going through your mind?
Like kind of almost like a weight lifted off. You get that first win after running quite a bit, and having from it's like 2005, about 5 years of just destroying cars and parts and transmissions, and not really trying to win, just going out and just driving kind of like a maniac, and finally started settling down and realized that I could do it.
Gotcha. Was there ever a turning point, kind of like you had like that moment to where it's like, hey, if I do this, I might be a little bit more successful?
Yeah, it was more my dad coming in the garage one night and saying, hey, it's about time you start thinking a little bit more when you're behind the wheel, because we're starting to run out of parts.
And at the time, you didn't have any protectors. I mean, if you broke a drive shaft, you broke a drive shaft.
Yeah, I mean, you're breaking drive shafts. You were, busting power steering pumps, wrecking pulleys about every race.
Yeah, there were no protectors. There were no high mount power steering pumps. So the gearbox went right into your pulley when the car bent.
About every time.
Yeah, I've had that happen as well. I mean, I've had a water pump pulley once get bent so bad, it looked like a 45-degree angle coming off the crank pulley.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, wow, okay. And then they started making pulley protectors, and nobody has that problem anymore.
Oh, yeah, you can just get, that was a good change.
Yeah, I mean, I love talking about what used to take us out because you forget about it. I've broke the top trailing arms of my rear end before and lost a drive shaft, and that's just not a problem we have anymore because, one, a lot of places you're allowed aftermarket trailing arms, and two, you've got slider shafts now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
And at the time,
I always would go around, and if someone was driving like a Pontiac or Buick or Rolls, you hit them just right on that driver's side front bumper and a little side shift to that frame, and it would lock the gearbox right on the power steering pump, lock their motor up.
Right. And
that was something you just did. You can't do that no more.
I have literally never heard that. Was that a thing?
Yeah, I've done it a few times, and actually one year in Richmond, I watched happened to Dan Haley. He come down to the end, he got caught just wrong, and ended up putting him out from winning Richmond good old days.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna ask you this: what other things like that used to happen?
Well, one of my bigger problems was my right foot never would let off, and I would just bang gears, so I'd always knock transmissions out. That was one of my common things, because back then you weren't really spending the money getting a trans built. You're just buying junkyard trances.
Right.
So you get a race out of it, and it'd be junk.
No, I'm talking like as far as you could hit a guy just right and lock up his motor. Like, were there any other little tricks like that worked back then that just never would now?
That was about the biggest one there. Just because the Buicks and stuff used to have that big hole, so
yeah.
The holes in the inside of the frame, so you catch them just right, it would side shift just enough to if you had that power steering belt super tight, it would stall that motor.
Wow, I have never heard that, like, literally. So I'm gonna jump to this right now. I mean, when I had the Imperial out there, what was your strategy?
Make sure you didn't go end to end on me to junk me, but just
did you know? Hold on.
Axles and front tires.
Yeah, I mean, did you know exactly where to hit that car?
Just at the time, knowing that you're young behind the wheel.
Yep.
You guys had some big motors and big gears. I knew them rear axles would be spinning like crazy, and usually little taps don't take much to break them when you're spinning at kind of RPMs.
Yeah, I was. We'll get to that. I just wanted to ask you that question because that's just experience, man. That's knowing that right there is why I'm doing the podcast. I mean, that's just something I don't think. I mean, maybe people did know that, but I never did. Like, I never knew that. I never heard that. Okay, so all right, you got your first win. I don't know if we covered this or not. What kind of car was it?
72 Olds 98.
72 Olds. Yep, we did cover that. Okay. Now you're derbying and figure eighting for like a lot of years.
Oh yeah, quite a few. Still am now.
Yes, you are one of the few that hasn't said, hey, these figure eights, you go out, you get spun, your night's over, I'm just going to derby. You are still big into the figure eight scene.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I still I enjoy it quite a bit.
So, when was your first figure eight win?
First figure eight one was that I actually had a little more faster success than that. I ran my first figure eight in 2000 in Armada. Didn't do too good. Kind of redid some things on the car because didn't really know how to set up a figure eight car back then. It set up kind of like a derby car. We had it sitting high, and so then we redid everything. Ran Richmond, good old days. A couple of weeks later, and ended up winning that second figure eight I've ever raced.
Wow, and you won the second. There had to have been a lot of cars there back then.
Oh yeah, that was that was still two of the days where you could run. I remember being in that feature, and there was a guy running a '67 Imperial coming through the middle.
Wow.
So yeah, you were running leftover demo cars, full size Impalas. There was anything pretty much went when the figure eights.
That had to have been just an awesome win.
Yeah, that was because it added to it I won that on Friday night, and then Saturday night my dad won the demo.
Nice.
So that kind of added to it there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen you figure eight. I remember one night over in Farwell, and I forget what year it was, but you seemed to run, I think it was like fourth place for a long time, and right on the last lap, I think you took the win by like a bumper.
Yeah, just some of the back then too, we weren't running half the motors we're running now, and cars were still full size, and just running with guys, you kind of know what guys are gonna bottle up, and you can get lucky like that sometimes and squeeze by them after a spin out.
Right. Yeah, we're watching and watching and watching. I think it was if it was 20 laps for 19, you were fourth, and then right at the last lap, you come around the last curve and took the win, and my jaw just dropped. It was like, did CJ just win that show? He just laughs like, "Yep, I got it."
Yeah, there's some crazy, there's always some crazy figure eights that you forget about it because you run so many in a year, but you look back and you watch your old videos and stuff, and it's like, wow, that was pretty crazy.
No, absolutely, man. So, going through, yeah, you've won a lot. I'm going to tell the story about the Imperials that we took up to Gladwin the 1 year. Well, let me tell this one first. You guys are you're the only driver I've ever seen escorted off the fairgrounds by the police.
That is true.
You guys showed up to Gladwin, I want to say in 05, 06?
Yeah, it's about that time.
Somewhere in there. I was young. I was old enough to remember, but too young to run. So I was there watching, and you guys rolled in with Imperials with skid steer tires on the back.
Yeah, we had them. We had me and my buddy Ron Kurkowski. We had those with them. We had 74 Impala bumpers welded on the front.
And at the time, the fair was put on by the fire department, and they just flipped the lid when you guys rolled in.
Yeah, I don't think it helped much the night before we ran in Standish with the same ones, okay. And word got out that's just down 61. So we showed up with them Imperials there and caused did a lot of damage to some cars, and yeah, they knew we were coming the next day.
So pretty much cars that today wouldn't necessarily be as big of a deal. They made you guys cut the front bumpers off those cars.
Yeah, we were told if we wanted to race, the front bumpers had to get cut off, and we started unloading the torches. And like, well, you guys are actually going to do it? So yeah, so we cut the front bumpers off and went out and raced. Both won our heats pretty fast and line up for the feature. And we're just sitting there, leaning against the cars, waiting for everybody else to line up. And here come the officials, and followed by the police with 2 checks and our heat trophies, and said, "Gentlemen, you guys need to load your cars and leave." And we were like, "Well, why can't we run the feature? It's not over." They're like, "Well, no one wants to race against you guys, so we either have you two go out there and beat each other up for the money, or we have the rest of the cars race, and you guys are forced to load."
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that would go on back in 2005 at derbies.
Yeah,
why even let the cars in if you're just going to do that,
Yeah. So we got loaded, and we started walking back to the track to watch a feature, and police said, "Nope, you guys get in your truck, you guys leave." Don't even stop to get beer or nothing in the town of Gladwin. On the outside, then you can. And they followed us. They followed us all the way out of town.
The cops literally followed you guys out of town.
Oh yeah, they made sure we didn't stop.
Jeez. It's laughable now. At the time, it was like, man, what's going on here? Is there a riot going on or what? But holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, that was back when a crosstown rivalry was. I mean, it was blood, man. It was, that was life when the Derby rolled around, and I was on the other end of that when the Miltons showed up. It was game on, man.
Oh yeah, back I remember the battles between like your dad and your uncle, and my dad and Terry used to come up there to Gladwin all the time, and that was always a good battle.
I think a good podcast would really be to get Dad on here with Butch to go back about some of the old stories from them days.
Oh yeah,
because I grew up hearing about Butch Milton. Like literally, Butch Milton inadvertently raised me. Because in the summertime, every other word out of Dad's mouth was Butch Milton this, Butch Milton that, Terry this, Terry that. Now CJ's starting to run. How's this gonna? Like,
yeah,
man. Yeah, but you guys would bring cars up that nobody else up here was ever doing anything like what you guys were doing down there, because you guys had a lot more shows down there and a lot more drivers.
Yeah, there was back growing up watching my dad and Terry run a lot, and they were running. It felt like every weekend we were running a different race.
So, what started you guys even coming up here to Gladwin?
Just because we got that place there, where we camp at River Valley in Gladwin, and I guess growing up, a couple of people told my dad, there's a race in town, so I think he got the info on it one year, and you could still run old wagons up there, or they're starting to down here, like our main stuff was just going sedans. So, he had a pile of wagons, so that was, I think, part of it there. Went up there and raced it.
I heard at one time down by you guys, and for me it's down there because you guys are down by the Detroit area. I'm up here in the middle of the Mitten, Gladwin County, but you guys at one time were junking like 100 Imperials a weekend in the 90s.
Yeah, there were like, mostly it was Richmond good old days. Yeah, it would be nothing to see 20 to 30 Imperials at that Derby. Growing up watching that. So
let me ask you this: who did you grow up admiring?
Well, of course, my dad, watching him race, but
yeah,
you watched him. My uncle raced for a while with him, and then Terry got into it, watching those guys. And now that I get older, it was rivalry between my dad and them. But you watch Ron Hodges and Pat Zorn and those guys, and even though they were battling my dad at the time, you did still learn stuff, the way their driving styles, the way they set things up. You did learn from that.
Yeah, I mean, your dad and my dad went back and forth a lot back in the 90s, and countless times screaming mad at each other. But you know what? Anytime you see those guys walking down the street like at Mayhem, it's nothing but love, man. You can't take that stuff and dwell on it. I mean, Dad and Butch last year sat at Mayhem pretty much together and watched the show, and we're talking back and forth, and Dad always said there's a respect there because Butch made his game a lot better.
And it does too, and that's what it is. I feel like there's always someone there that's going to make you push your limits of your driving and your building, and that's what makes you better in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys came to town in 2011. I was like 19 or 20 years old, and Todd Sorensen put on Gladwin, and me and my brother took Imperials up there, and we thought, man, who's gonna destroy an Imperial? What's gonna happen to an Imperial up here against these Crown Vics? And you and Jack Fisk, I told the story on Jack's podcast as well, but it was you and Jack. You guys come down the track and just eliminated those Imperials in a minute or two. That was it. It was like one hit to the rear quarter. I had a broken axle. My sheet metal was pushed in so far, like halfway across my trunk, and I learned a lot about Imperials in a very short amount of time right there.
Yeah.
Well,
just that short time from when I had that one there to then, the way the Crown Vics were getting built, and we ran 03s that year. So me and Jack, I think, both had 03s that race. So, and the way we could build those at the time, there was definitely a little more advantage of the Crown Vics back then.
Well, that was 2011, and 5 years earlier, you guys are getting run out of town for having skid steer tires and 74 bumpers on the front.
Exactly. Yeah.
The Derby scene changes so much from year to year to year, and 5 years later, there's two Imperials up there, and you guys just waste them. You know. It wasn't even a contest. It really wasn't.
That's it. The change of the Derby scene.
Well, you know, and kind of going back to a minute ago, I mean, did you know exactly how to take those cars out, or did you just kind of get a lucky shot? I mean,
no, I just kind of, just knowing, an Imperial, you can't let them get a shot on you. Just like nowadays, you don't want to let an 03 or a big old Cadillac go end to end on you. So staying next to them and just picking at the tires.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, and that's just experience driving. I mean, at the time, this was 10 years ago now. At the time, you knew exactly what to do in that situation.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And that's a shout out for you being a driver and having experience and all that. CJ's definitely a guy when he shows up. If you don't take him out, he's leaving with the money. Well, and it doesn't honestly matter who's there because, I mean, you snuck out wins even, Celine, Jason Goff, but you had that, you were right there. You were hung up, and then he come around and got you pinned, and that was it,
Yeah, it was, that one made the old gut drop, make that hit on him, and he takes off, and the car quit, and I just end up running out of gas, and I have a big enough gas tank on that race.
And honestly, I'll tell you this, I think, was it maybe the way the car got tipped? Because when it got leveled back out, you could drive off the track?
No, it didn't. The next day I dumped gas, and it finally fired up. It was just ran or dry. It was, an hour and 20 feature that year.
Yeah, it was a long feature. Oh, yeah, I got you. I was just there to make jump, man. I drove in that Derby myself, and, I didn't have anybody there, so I was like, well, I don't want to take this car out of here because I'm going to build a new one for next year, so let's just have some fun.
Yeah, yep.
And
you had the caddy zinging that night.
Well, hey, man, I ran 45 minutes that night, and I didn't even get in the top 10, okay?
Yeah, that was a long feature, a lot of cars on that track.
I mean, I knew right then and there that, listen, I mean, USA had merged that year with, pretty much Jack bought USA, so all Jack's old guys were running USA shows now, and you still had, Trevor Daly was an old school USA guy, Shane Ritter was an old school USA guy, so you kind of had a blend of cultures there, and it really was a magic night. It really was.
Yeah, it was it was long, but it was a good battle.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good lineup, Like I said, Justin Sherman, Trevor Daly, Jason Goff, Dave Meyer was there. I'm not sure if Ron Hodges was there or not.
No, he wasn't there that year.
I got you. Yeah, but like I say, pretty much everything Michigan had to offer was there that night. And Jack's championship has actually grown bigger from that since then.
Yeah, the next year got moved up here to Richmond, and there was a lot of real good drivers. The Canadian brothers come over, and
yep.
That was a big. That last championship was a real big one.
Yeah, drivers from Canada are showing up. Jason Goff was back. Dave Meyer was back. Everybody, Stephen Bauer was there. He got second. Ron DeVroy wound up winning. I don't even remember who got third. But honestly, I'm not gonna slam Ron DeVroy for winning. But I'll tell you this. I mean, you could have just drew the winner out of a hat that night. I mean, it wasn't. Sometimes like you mentioned earlier, you got this pecking order type, and that's not what it was. It was Ron DeVoy wound up winning it. Stephen Bauer got second, and I mean those guys aren't big name drivers. They just pulled it out.
Yep. Yeah, it was. It could have been anybody's night that night. It was a pretty another one of those faster features where if you got caught in the mix, you're gonna make junk quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so hey, listen, man. I mean, know CJ pretty well. I've watched him Derby a lot, and honestly, this is what the podcast is. This is the Michigan County Fair scene, and CJ is just the pinnacle of that. He's a big time county fair driver, and I'm gonna delve into the county fair stories here because CJ is the guy to ask. So, when you guys wound up coming up here for you guys wound up running against the Imperials, and then I believe there was a Derby up here for a few more years, and then so you guys just mostly stayed down on the east side of the state down there after that.
Yeah, we were still. I think we did come back up one other time. I think I brought that 03 back up. I believe I broke the wheel studs off, so I didn't have really good luck, and I made the feature. But that was about the extent of it there. But yeah, mostly it was just running around here. Once Jack, before he bought USA, was running his own shows, I ran Mostly a lot of his shows. Won a few, got DQ'd on some post inspections, but learned my lesson and definitely learned a lesson on that one.
Well, hey, listen. Your DQ in those, I'm gonna help you out here a little bit because your DQ on that, and I'll have Jack call in if he's got a problem with this. But they changed the rule after that, though.
Yeah. The year I got DQ'd in Richmond, the next set of rules came out in the spring. That rule was gone.
Yes. Well, okay, they added one, or it was gone. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with a way you could run the dash bar low.
Yep.
I think at the time if it was low, you'd have 6 inches to start, but if it touched after the race, you were DQ'd, and that's what it was. Took a big shot at the end to finish the race, and the front end bent up and hit the trans protector on the cage, and that's what that cost me.
And I'll tell you this: you got to cut the front bumpers off your car. Okay, how do you control the dash bar hitting your tranny during a show?
Yeah, exactly.
Like you have been at the wrong end of some pretty shaky calls here in the county fair scene.
Yeah, I definitely lost a little bit of winnings doing that, but you learn, and the second time I got DQ'd in Emily City was. I pushed. I was told I had a couple. I was running Michigan cars, and so they weren't the cleanest, and a couple rotted out body mounts and welded washers on the frame, and just welded a few more that weren't rusted, and just pushing the limit.
And Jack's inspection, post inspection, I'm just so the audience knows, is once you win a show, at the time they would come out and lift your car, and from what I understand, your body mount bolts were not slid back. So they pulled them and found washers welded up underneath on the frame.
Yep. Instead of just having the whatever size the factory hose is, I welded 1-inch store bought washers up in the frame, and the body wasn't allowing it to slide as much as it would if I wouldn't have done that.
And when I heard that story, and I think you told me that, and I was like, they're looking at that on these cars. Like,
that's what.
Are you serious right now?
Yeah, I don't think it would have made a difference, but it definitely cost me on that one.
Well, hey, listen, at the time, and this was like 2015, 2016 time period.
Yep.
The Michigan Derby scene was getting out of hand because everybody was just building pro mods there for a long time, and everything was getting out of hand. So Jack's rules were that way. I mean, if you were a quarter inch over, you were cutting because we're not going back to this. We're not doing a 60-inch door bar, and then I let this guy in with 62. Now this guy's got 65, and now all of a sudden we're back to the wheel tub.
Yeah, exactly. And I understood it. He was trying to, I guess, get the Derby scene back, where it needed to be with a good set of rules, and I just fell on the wrong end of the rule change at the time.
Well, it happens, and
yep.
We've all got stories like that. It is what it is, but you've got a lot of victories as well, and for all the times that you've wound up on that side of the coin, I mean, you've got 10, probably 10 victories, hopefully.
Yeah, about that.
How many wins do you have?
Between the figure eight and the Derby, and I honestly couldn't tell you. I had a couple seasons. I started off figure eight season. I won the first 8 figure eights in a row. So I've had some pretty good success. To tell you a number altogether, I'd be lying to you.
So just so the audience knows, when I go up to River Valley and you go in to check in, CJ has more trophies in there than I have probably won in my entire lifetime.
Yeah, Kimmy that runs the campground there usually keeps the trophies for a year at a time. What I win and hangs them on the wall, and she's a very big supporter of myself and my dad and our racing habit.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are pretty successful, and like I say, good guys to talk to. If you need any help, CJ help you right out.
That's what a lot of the young drivers, if you listen to this, do not be afraid to ask those older guys advice. And if you live around me, if guys that know me, stop by. If you need a part, I got extra, or I can help you. That's because if you guys don't get in the sport's eventually gonna die out around here.
Well, another thing too is you'll go out there and there's like a stigma with, this guy's not from, say, Gladwin County, so he must be evil. He's this. He's this big entity that I have to beat, or my life isn't going to continue. And then really, you just walk up to him, and these guys are like the coolest guys ever. They're just there's there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So, you're doing really good in the county fair scene, obviously. So, at what point did you decide? You know what? I'm gonna try a big show. I know Trevor Daly got a hold of you, and you guys wound up going down there. And did you? You know, there had to have been a moment there where you said, you know what? We're gonna try this again. We're gonna go back.
Yeah, it was kind of that the year was it been like I think 19 when we were down there in Illinois, and we were still middle of the feature, still going pretty good, and we got shut down with the ordinance there, and I think it was Champaign, and just looking around at our builds and how everything was holding up, and kind of saying, well, we got a shot, and then competing against some of the bigger names like Dave. Yeah, he's super hard to beat around here, but still being second or third to him in a race around here, like, well, I'm not. You still might be able to have a chance to compete at a bigger level because he's winning out of state. So
Right.
that's kind of just sparked our interest to give it a try.
Dave is his own. He's his own Derby world. I'll tell you that. I mean, he can go.
Yeah, he's. I definitely. He is. I say out of all the people I've ever competed against, he's hard to beat. He's the hardest to beat. That is for sure.
I mean, there are very, very few guys in the country that can go to Blizzard Bash and win, Metal Mayhem and win, Bluegrass Bash and win. All those big victories like that. They're not even close to the same. Like, there's guys that run Blizzard Bash every year, and that's the show they run. There's guys that run Metal Mayhem every year. That's the show they run. Bash for Cash, he goes down there and almost wins. And I talked to Dave half a dozen times probably in my lifetime because he's always the guy we're all trying to beat. And one, he was telling me about he was upset that he didn't win Bash. Oh, that was a bad weekend. I'm like, you got second at Bash for Cash. He's like, yeah. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I've never won that show. I'm like, you do understand that, like, it's an honor for a lot of drivers to even compete there, let alone win,
Yep.
Yeah, he is just, he's open up. I got to get him on here, but, and he was at Spring X down there, and you guys took care of business, man.
Yeah, he was, we just, we stayed on him and, didn't, I think the biggest thing is we stayed on him and didn't let him, skate around because if you give that guy a break, he's going to take it to the end, and he'd have been there at the end competing against us.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you guys completely forgot that he even had a whole team out there. You were just like, we got to take care of Dave, end of story, and then we worried about everybody else.
Yeah,
and everybody,
with his experience and the way he can wheel a car, that's about where we were at.
And everybody else is Jeff Heinen, Bill Miller, and Trevor Petke.
Yeah, we just got lucky as that we got Heinen's Cadillac, broke fairly early, so that was a big help.
Yeah, well, hey man, I mean, D Hill, he's got no fear. He has got no fear, man.
No, and Darren is a real good guy. Grew up watching him race, and if you just sit down and talk to him, even though not about Derby stuff, what a real good guy.
Darren's a good guy. We saw him in inspection line, and he said he is usually at his daughter's softball games, and this was like the first one in 5 or 6 years that he was going to miss for Spring X.
Yeah, that is. He's really big into softball with his daughter. I think she's playing at a college level, so yeah, they're playing quite a bit of softball.
Yeah, Darren really is a good guy. He's Derby to the core, man. He really is a good guy.
Yes, sir.
And no fear, he will hit anybody. Like, he's a guy I definitely want to stay away from, and I don't say that about a lot of guys at all. Mayhem last year ran there, did fare out as well, but you said, you know what, we're going to try it again. So obviously, I mean, you guys got the win. So how did that, I guess, what's your mentality now that you got a big show win? What's your mentality? What do you think?
I still think, maybe the only thing that's maybe changing, we still have to go out and, drive the same way. I guess maybe now, probably not, because we don't really probably run Spring X most, unless Trevor goes back down to that other team Derby. But, we're still probably, maybe move up a step or two on the, what they consider the pecking order. But we'll still do the same thing, just go down and have fun. That's all the thing. Basically, we go down and have a good time, and we just got lucky this time and ended up winning, and we still had a real good time. Win, lose, or draw, it would have been a fun weekend regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, the way that I would view it is if I took a car down there and didn't get last, I'd be happy.
Yeah, I mean, just making the feature with that group of drivers was accomplishment.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I mean, you guys, yeah, I'll say it again, took care of business, got her done. Um, so, do you have any, I guess, obviously before Spring X, what was your favorite, well, I mean, you've got so many, but what was your favorite win before Spring X?
I mean, yeah, there is a few. Of course, 2000, like I won my first figure eight, and my dad won the next day the demo. That was a real good one.
Yeah.
That was a good. I won. I think I forget exactly what year it was, but I won 4th of July in Harrison, and it come down to me and Ted Cooper. And one of my first derbies in Harrison, Cooper wiped my behind pretty bad. So it come down to me and him, and actually put a good whooping on him and put him out. That was a real good one.
Ted will do that. He is.
Yeah.
He's getting up there in age, but he still has no fear either. He's a guy that will.
He's still. I see him driving a few races lately, and yeah, he still is. Not afraid to put the hammer down. That is for sure.
He has not changed one bit. He has not. He was down there at Spring X, and Ted hasn't changed one bit. He might have white hair now, but no, he's still Ted. We
had that conversation down there. I said, you probably don't remember. So I was about 17, 18. We drew the same heat in Harrison. I said, you wiped my behind. He says, well, good thing I did that because I wouldn't want not to have to battle with you now.
Hey, dude, honestly, coming from Ted, that's a big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Ted will, he'll tell you what he thinks about people, and if he says that, then that's a big deal.
Yeah, I got a lot of respect for him. He, that's the same thing you talked about earlier. You compete against guys that you're learning from, and it makes you better. And he was growing that. We'd always go there, and he put a whooping on us, and every year we'd do more and more. And finally, where we were competitive against him at the end, and was able to beat him.
Yeah, absolutely. So you started derbying in the 90s. Crown Vics weren't really a thing yet. At what point did you guys start building Crown Vics?
It was probably mid-2000s. Armada came out with new rules, and, everyone was like, 80 and newer. And, I was kind of, before that, I know USA had gone 80 and newer. So, knowing Ryan Songaluski and seeing some of the builds he was doing with Fords at the time, and that kind of sparked my interest. And, once I started building a couple Crown Vics, and now, I'm diehard Fords 9802s. I wouldn't drive nothing else.
You've got them down pretty well. I mean, how many of them do you think that you've built?
I bet you probably within the past, I'd say 8 years, I'm usually wrecking at least 2 or 3 a year.
So you're looking at 25 of them then, probably.
Yeah, easy.
So, with a show like Spring X, do you say, okay, I'm gonna change this or try this, or do you just kind of have a standard procedure?
Yeah, I mean, standard. The way I build the frames and the trunks and stuff is always usually about the same. Just the amount of plates we can put on doors, or what. This year, I broke down and bought a pointy bumper for the front, just because the rules kind of benefit having that bigger, heavier front bumper.
Right. So a little bit, but not really a complete overhaul.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then step up your driving game, which, man, I got to tell you, not a lot of guys can do that. A lot of county fair drivers go to the big show and they're just lost.
They're
outbuilt, they're outpaced.
It was almost too like in the feature. It's kind of like you either got to be the hammer, or else you're gonna get hammered.
Yeah, right. So you just turned it up, and that was her.
That was it.
Absolutely. All right. So. Did you ever build Imperial? Did you ever run an Imperial?
I ran one, the one Gladwin with there, and then that was a 64, and then I built I think it was 2000, I built a 68 I took up to Gladwin.
Oh, subframer?
Yeah, subframer, made feature with it, but, about 4 good hits in the feature. I think it was a Michigan Imperial, so the whole floorboard fell out with the subframe.
Gotcha. And what year did you say that was?
I think it was 2000.
So who won that year? Do you remember?
I believe that would have been Terry Ponzetti that year.
Oh, Terry Ponzetti. Okay. Yeah, I gotta get him on here, man. That guy, he's been off the face of the earth for a while, but I gotta get him on here to talk about the old days.
Oh man, I remember driving to that guy's house and seeing Texas wagons and sedans just stacked on each other. Your jaw about dropped.
Stacked up 3 or 4 high for just rows.
Yep. Oh yeah, just.
I mean,
all gorgeous.
Yeah. And he wound up getting out of it. He does excavating and all that. But I got to get him on here to talk about that too. It's just a lot of fun to talk about, Gladwin County because that's where I'm from, and hey, I'm the one asking the questions, so that's how it goes. And you guys have, this is your guys' stomping grounds too, even though you guys are from down there, but you guys come up here all the time and have fun.
Yeah, exactly. It was always a real good time to go up there and race.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna start the Big Ten now. Are you familiar with the Big Ten? Do you know what the Big Ten is?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Are you a sports fan?
I am a sports fan.
So if the audience has never made it this far, which hey, some haven't, and that's okay. What I do is I have what I call the Big Ten, and what it is Michigan State playing the Big Ten Conference, but there's actually 14 teams. So I've got 14 questions to run past you real quick, just to to let the drivers get to know you a little bit better and give the audience a little change of pace, if you will. So this is how I close out the podcast. I guess we can just change it up a little bit. So the Big Ten, question number 1: what's your favorite place to visit in Michigan? That's kind of redundant, but every driver's different. So I gotta ask.
Probably most favorite place is Silver Lake. We go there
Silver Lake,
every year since before I was even born. My family has. We got family that comes in from Illinois. We go on a week vacation there, so we that's probably my favorite place to go. But besides that, if we're not there, we're up at River Valley RV Park in Gladwin. Those two are close first for me.
Gotcha. Do you have like a certain play toy to take over there?
Yeah, well, I mean, growing up, I've had, started off with the quads and then built a truck. And now that I got, wife and kids, I got an 85 K5 Blazer. I just LS swapped and hopefully it's in the paint shop right now and hopefully have that back pretty soon.
So let me ask you this. When you go over to Silver Lake and you have your LS swapped Blazer, is that as fun as being at a Derby?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Yeah, because I guess it's more of a week of just fun where Derby you're there for a night of adrenaline rush. It's quick and it's over fast. Where Silver Lake, it's more relaxing, fun, and you're with the family the whole time.
Right, it's a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I've seen you run pretty hard, and I've seen you win a lot. So, Mad Dog or winner?
I've always tried to go for the win. But I guess there's always that point in the the night where it's time to turn it up, and I think you kind of become a Mad Dog trying to win.
I got you. So when it's time to take care of business, that's when you turn it up.
Yeah, that's when it's time to. I mean, you're looking around, and your car's holding up good. You got to start taking other people out if you want to have a chance in winning.
I think you demonstrated that pretty good in Croswell a couple of years ago down there. I was out there in my caddy, and I looked over my shoulder, and I just saw this green flash go by, and I saw you just disintegrate whoever it was that you hit. I'm talking parts moved, metal got ripped off, and I'm like, holy crap, is that CJ? He's like, yes, it was. All right, well, this derby's about over because CJ's starting to turn it up now.
At that point of the night, it's time to start going.
He's like, yep, somebody's about to get paid. All right, so Metallica or Garth Brooks?
Younger days, Metallica, growing up, but now I'm getting older, I'm Garth Brooks. I love listening to country music.
So how do you like the new style pop country?
It's growing on me. Some of it I turn right off. But some of it's not bad at all.
I got you. Like Eric Stapleton. Is that his name? Eric Stapleton. Chris Stapleton.
Yeah, Chris Stapleton. Yeah. I like his stuff.
He's got a pretty good sound going there. I enjoy his music. I'm a rocker myself, but hey, man, you can't deny greatness. Yeah, so
exactly.
So back in the day, you ran a lot of old iron, and obviously built Imperials. Did you ever run a wagon?
I ran two. I ran when I was 15. I built a my dad had a leftover Buick wagon from Gladwin. I think that was the year actually your dad and your Uncle Glenn had the Imperials there, so the whole back was disintegrated. So we kind of just pulled her all back together, 9-wired it up, and I took that leftover thing there, and then I built one. I want to say like '06, another Buick wagon. But it was for some races. You could have quite a few modifications done, so it really wasn't like running a true wagon build where it was didn't have the frame was kind of plated in places, so it was never kind of it was all had some modifications.
So basically, you didn't. It didn't get to act like a wagon because everything else out there was plated, so it didn't really matter.
Exactly. Yep.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So the question is, new or old iron?
Oh, I'm new iron all the way. I would. I think that. I mean, some of the old iron holds up, but I think in the long run that the newer stuff just holds up a little bit longer. Strength wise.
So do you like to drive the new iron better than the old iron, or do you like to build the new iron better than the old iron?
I like building them and driving them. I think building them wise, just because I've done so many, I kind of got a system down and build them. And when you're on the track, they're a lot more maneuverable compared to the bigger cars.
So you are you're a top tier driver, and that's end of story. But you actually use a Ford, the maneuverability of a Ford. I see so many guys in Crown Vics that they're just forward and backward the whole derby, and I'm like, dude, there's a caddy out there. You guys should be burying that thing. And CJ does that. Like, you do that, and like, I don't see a lot of other Ford guys doing that because you gotta, when you come from the old school, when the guys are running wagons and Imperials, and you hop in a Ford, it feels like a go-kart.
Yeah, oh yeah, and even when you get hit, just the way the sound is completely different.
Well, and a lot of these newer guys that have never ran old iron, so they don't really have that perspective. They're just like, it's a derby car, okay? Well, when you hop in a Cadillac and then hop in a Ford, I can go anywhere in a Ford after being in a Caddy or an Imperial.
Oh yeah, Yeah, that's that I think that helps a lot too. Just driving the old cars, the new cars, like and how to kind of beat them. How they can turn and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, the maneuverability. All right. Okay. So heavy build or bone stock?
I'd rather go with a heavy build. Too many years of busting transmissions and engine parts, so I like having the full protectors and the trans braces compared to the bone stock stuff.
So the extra, what do you think? 2 or 3 or 4 weeks you got to put into a car to make it a heavy build. I mean, quote unquote heavy build. You're okay with that because you're not going to break anything.
Exactly. My Spring X car is junk, but knock on wood, I think I wrecked a spindle into heat, and I think I wrecked a tire and a spindle into heat, and the feature, I think I wrecked one rear tire. So I'll take those few things compared to replacing the whole front of my engine or a cracked trans.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It really does. A lot of guys do like the motor swap class because it's less work, but honestly, I mean, you kind of forget why you do all this stuff when you go out there and break a trans,
Yeah, building that, motor swap car for my dad. It took me barely any time to build it, but, watching a couple good hits with the front end and you see the front end start bending up, you're like, wow, you forget how them cars really ain't that tough without all that extra stuff done to them.
Yeah, I remember the last Ford I ran with no pedals in it, no aftermarket pedals, like 3 hits to the front in the crush box, it closes up the brake pedal, so now you can't move the brake, you got no brakes,
Oh, yeah.
And that's just, that's not a problem we really have anymore, but I just remember that from, I want to say, like 2010 or 2011, before anybody had protectors.
Yeah, that's true.
You could crank out 10 cars in the summer, but they were all junk too,
Yeah, and a lot of the parts were all junk too.
Okay, well, the next question is favorite kind of car, but you're 98-02. We've already answered that. 98-02 all day, all night.
Yeah, that's my bread and butter. And then figure 8 cars, well, I mean, they start off as, Cutlasses or Malibus, but there's not much besides roofs anymore that resemble a figure 8 car, or a true car, I should say.
Right, yeah, I mean, you're even seeing some of them that they're all fabricated. They're not even... they're not even anything original anymore,
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, man, you're at a big show. You just won, big victory. How are you celebrating? Beer or whiskey?
I should neither of the two. I'm more of a vodka guy now, but Yeah, my younger days proved me not to drink whiskey no more. So yeah, usually a little mixture of Gatorade and vodka does me right.
Hey man, when whiskey starts tasting like soda pop, you really are in trouble. I've learned that.
That is for sure.
I can't even taste this. Oh yeah, I don't even know my name now.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this. Tell the I mean, what is it about vodka? I mean, I'm not a vodka guy, but I've just acquired a taste for beer, I guess. So I guess I've never ventured into vodka. I mean, what is? You said that now you're into vodka. I mean, what made that?
Well, I guess what happened was, before, if anybody knows me, before I was a real heavy guy. So,
Okay.
about a year and a half ago, I had a procedure done to help me lose weight,
Oh,
and
gotcha.
I can't drink carbonated stuff anymore, so I can't drink beer.
Oh.
So that was the next thing I switched over drinking to that.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, okay. All right. So I did actually replace one question. This is the first podcast we're doing it on. So the next question is, what is your number and why? Your Derby number.
During number 74, just because that was my high school football number.
Oh, simple enough. What?
That was it. That was my high school football number. I was a lineman, and that was our number for the line, and yeah, that was the only reason.
That seems like a high number for a lineman, or do I not have that?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, back then, that was 90s. You always the higher numbers for your line, and now I don't think it really even has any. It doesn't really even matter.
I always thought the higher numbers were the wide receivers. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know football that well, but interesting. Yeah, and I actually I don't know if you listened to the podcast before, but that was the A1 question. Just so you know, that's where it
Okay.
went. I got changed out. So the next question is okay. So you're at a big show. You're out of state. You've got all your cars and all your entourage. Are you getting a hotel or are you camping?
No, we're camping. We're coming deep with all the friends and family. Usually, like Spring X, I think we rolled down. We had 5 campers in our group, and then our teammate Trevor Daly, they brought 2 campers, and they had some friends tenting. So yeah, we're camping there and enjoying the weekend.
Absolutely. Now you guys, I mean, you got to sacrifice a truck or two to haul the campers down, but that wasn't a problem.
No, I think like my dad usually pulls the gooseneck. I pull my camper, and then my brother-in-law pulls their camper. So he was kind of, when he married my sister, it was kind of like the unwritten rule.
To marry into the Milton family, you have to haul a camper.
That's it.
Well, I'm lucky I didn't marry into your family then, because I'd be hauling a car.
Yeah, we'd have to get a bigger trailer.
True. Or a motorhome that you could pull the car behind it.
That would work too.
Could do that. All right. Okay. So you have run a lot of county fair shows, and you have seen success at big shows. So, big show or county fair?
I guess the county fairs are probably a little more enjoyable to run, just because first of all you got to travel as far, and it just depends. Like I really enjoy like going up to like Sandusky per se. Just that group of guys up there in the thumb, or they'll sit there and BS with you. They're going to battle you on the track. Afterwards, they're going to sit there and drink a beer with you, shake your hand, and laugh about it.
Gotcha.
So that part of it I like, and I feel like the bigger shows, unless it's the team events, if you take a guy out too early that's higher up in the pecking order than someone else you should have took out, you're gonna get some slack for it.
So, the politics of the big shows kind of a little bit, I guess something you really got to watch for. If you're kind of into it, then great, but if not, then it's not as fun.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. I'm like, yeah, that's why Spring X is so fun with us, because we're going out with our four, and we're just gonna go out there and have fun and hopefully come out on top.
Gotcha, absolutely. Okay, so this one is just a fun question that I threw in here, and like I said, we're improving and doing all this, but this one's still here. So does pineapple belong on pizza?
I have to say no on that. I'm more of a pepperoni mushroom guy, so yeah, I don't even like pineapple in general, so to put it on my pizza, no way.
I'll be honest with you, I only have that question in there to see if the guy I'm talking to is clinically insane.
Yeah.
Anybody who says that pineapple belongs on pizza, I need to watch out for, because that person might be a little bit crazy.
Exactly.
All right. So you are obviously, you're an older guy, you're a married guy, family guy, but is it blonde, brunette, or redhead?
Before I was married, I was always blondes. And kind of my wife is a brunette, and so, um, yeah, I've always hinted at her to go blonde, and that's never happened. So I guess we're a brunette guy now.
All right, listen, hey man, that's great, but what does that, what does that say about blondes, right? I don't know.
Exactly.
I'm laughing. Sorry. Okay.
That's all right.
There are single drivers that I will ask that question to, and that is what it is. But all right. So Michigan question: do you play euchre?
Oh, all the time. Play quite a bit. We have a group we camp with when we're not camping. Once a month we get together in the winter and play at someone's house. And, whoever wins hosts it the next month. So yeah, definitely a euchre player.
So okay, in euchre, do you have your favorite partner, or you just is it okay? Let me ask you this: when you're at the table, is it your partner that you have better luck with, or is it the seat you're sitting in?
It's definitely your partner for sure.
Okay, who's your favorite partner?
My dad actually is one of my favorite partners to play with because he kind of watches what cards are thrown. Where some of the other people we play with, they just play and they're not sure what cards have been played. Where
right.
Guys that play, kind of watch what cards have been played already.
My uncle will count the trump as we're playing. So somebody will throw the 9. He'll go, "That's 1." And then the next time, like 3 of them will get pulled. He'll go, "That's 4." He'll count them out as they go. But that's why your dad and them went back and forth back in the day, because they both, were that way. They're both competitive.
Yep. Exactly.
All right, last question of the top 10. Big 10, a few goofy questions in there, but if you had to pick, you're coming off a big win at Spring X, but what was your proudest win, favorite car built? I built this car and I got 3 or 4 wins out of it, or just this win was really cool. It was my just really good night. If you had to pick.
Say probably I had a couple. My favorite win would have been, or build would have been, when I won Armada Fair for the first time, and more or less just because, growing up watching my dad race Armada, never having success there, still hasn't, won a figure 8 or the demo there, just a lot of seconds. So, winning that for the first time, that was a real good feeling.
Gotcha. And do you remember the kind of car it was?
94 Crown Vic.
Oh, bubble, a fifth or a third window Crown Vic?
Yep, third window Crown Vic. Yep.
Oh, that's crazy. And it's just funny to me that you guys coming back from Spring X and you picked the Armada Fair. You are a county fair guy through and through.
Yeah, that was just growing up there, but I guess the Spring X thing still is kind of it hasn't really set in all the way yet. So
I got you.
And you'll probably ask me in a few more months. That'll probably be our number one victory.
That may happen. We'll see. Hey, there's a lot that can happen between now and then, and maybe we'll catch up later on this deal. I've formatted the podcast. We're not on a timeline here. We're just talking. I don't have any sponsors. Everything comes out of my own pocket, and it's just it's a one-on-one with the drivers, and nothing's saying that there only has that they can only be on here one time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's basically try to not go 4 hours long or anything, but give the audience something to listen to, and that's what it is. I appreciate having you on here, man. I really am honored. I'm honored with every driver that comes on and has faith that I'm not going to make us look dumb or anything, and it's flattering for both ends here, man. I'm really glad that you agreed that you talked to me tonight.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the invite.
So. CJ Milton, prominent driver in the Michigan County Fair scene. Got a big Spring X win over the weekend. Great guy to deal with. One of the nicer guys in the game. He'll help you out with anything you need. Loves his 98 02s. Hopefully, I'll run into you at another show this summer, man.
We'll be at a few of them. Hopefully, as long as the season doesn't get canceled.
Yeah, that's definitely another thing, but hey, anything can happen. So we're gonna sign off here. So CJ Milton, I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.